Anyone can learn a series of notes and then play them in sequence. But how we play the notes is what makes the difference between a computer and an artist. And that difference is what we call musicality. In this video we'll see how a very short and apparently easy section from Rachmaninov's Sonata for cello and piano can teach us everything there is about creating emotions and telling stories with just a few notes. We'll talk about the three pillars of musicality: voicing, rhythm, and phrasing. We'll discover some bad mistakes intermediate musicians and beyond usually make, and by the end of the video you'll be a master of these three concepts and you'll be able to understand how great pianists approach them when they play. All of that in just 8 measures. But before we start, let's do 3 quick checks about things that you should be doing to improve your musicality. First, about phrasing. Musical expression is inside all of us, and that includes you, even if someone has ever told you that you have no musicality. Hearing your own voice is a great way to discover the music you have inside yourself.
It is espressivo and long legato. No ta 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 ta.
And you don't have to sing with perfect intonation or with a heart-melting voice, but you should sing every bar of every piece you're playing. And when you do, actually listen to what you're doing with your voice and try to reproduce it on the piano. Don't you ever forget this. Instruments are an extension of the voice. You don't play the piano with your fingers, you play the piano with your inner voice. The best way to develop your imagination for phrasing is to sing a lot. Second, about rhythm. Composers knew what they wanted when they wrote their pieces. Don't add extra pauses, change the tempo with every bar, or play rhythms not written in the score. You'll never improve any original piece by doing that. It doesn't mean that you have to play everything by the metronome though, but all your rubato, all your personal tempo variations should come from what is written. Practice a lot with a metronome and internalize the rhythm that is written. And third, about voicing. I recommend that you practice a lot of technical exercises, but a big disclaimer here. Scales, arpeggios, exercises should not only be played with only one dynamic or one articulation. Otherwise, you'll just be practicing how to move your fingers quickly, which is useless for playing actual music. Practice your scales legato and loud, staccato and soft, legato and soft, staccato and loud, and all combinations of that with fast and slow. Remember, musicality is not what notes we play, but how we play them. And we want to be able to make any note sound the exact way we want it to sound. That is what it means to have a good technique, not just playing fast. And now that this is clear, let's move on to Rachmaninov. Let's start with the voicing, because all the rest will evolve from there. But first, let me ask you a question. This is my ring. Look at it carefully. Do you like it? It's just a regular ring, isn't it? But what if I do this? Do you like it more? It's an amazing ring now, isn't it? The piano is a very limited instrument in many ways. We can't control the dynamics once a note is played. We can't vibrate a note. But on the other hand, no other instrument can do what we can in terms of creating pure magic with layers. So let's work on the surroundings of the ring first. Let's go voice by voice. Starting with the simplest one, the syncopated chords. And let's not do anything with it. No fluctuations in dynamics or tempo, nothing. It's just a soft mattress of harmony that keeps the music moving. And we are not going to bring out the top note as we usually do with chords. And there's a reason for that we'll learn in a moment. That's all we want, nothing exaggerated. Now let's add the bass line. It's a simple layer, mostly created with the roots of the chords, and let's make it stand out a bit from the chords. But not too much, because we'll have to make room for another layer that we'll see in a moment. now let's have a look at the third layer. It looks simple, but it's the most nuanced, and the balance with the bass line is the hardest thing to achieve. At the beginning and at the end, the only thing this D note does is reinforce the bass line with some resonance. We won't bring it out because a static note is never interesting. The interesting voice here is the bass line. But in the middle, the same layer is actually a secondary melody. So in this case, we'll do the opposite. We'll hide the bass line so that the melody stands out a bit. Let's hear all three layers together. Pay attention to which voice I'm bringing out each moment. And now we'll just need to add the melody. We'll just play it a few levels of intensity above everything else, because it's not even piano, it's mezzo forte, and the whole puzzle is complete. One last detail for the layer with the chords though. Remember what I said that we are not going to bring out the top note of the chords? As a general rule of piano playing, when we play chords, we want to bring out the highest note because that clarity of sound increases the quality. But in this case, if we play the chords like this, once we add the melody, it will sound like this. So your ear will understand this. And that's not what we want. This is what we want. So we'll just play the 2 or the 3 simultaneous notes at the same level, nice and soft. And one last detail for the melody. The third layer reaches the climax at this point, while the main melody is just repeating what it did the first time. So I also like to reduce the main melody a bit at that specific point, because I want you, the listener, to hear the climax of the secondary melody as clearly as possible. So in this little section, we've learned that clarity is what creates quality. Remember that every time you're playing any music with an accompanied melody, and pay special attention to the balance of all secondary voices. And now that we have completed the puzzle, let's move on to something very important: rhythm. And within the rhythm, there are 3 main things I want to talk about. The first one is the big plan for the whole section. If we look at it from above, we'll see 4 phrases that are grouped in 2 pairs. Listen. We open the idea, and we close it with a question. And then we open the same idea again, and we close it with an answer. The reason why the first time is a question and the second time is an answer is not because I say so. They both finish with the tonic, aka the main chord, D major. But if a melody ends on something that is not the root note, it always opens up. And when it ends on the root note, it brings closure. Anyway, one of the biggest mistakes beginners and especially intermediate musicians make is treating every small musical motif as a phrase. It would be like if I start speaking like this. You'd start skipping 10 seconds of me until you get tired of me and you click away and watch something else instead. I'm going to play how this would sound. I bet I'll make you skip 10 seconds. If I do, instead of clicking away, click the like button, because that'll prove my point. So don't close your phrasing every couple of measures. That is the easiest way to make your playing sound boring. Second, let's talk about all these chords that don't fall on the beat, which is called the syncopation chain. If there were a traffic sign for "don't stop, keep moving," it should be a syncopation. Listen to this. Coming back to Rachmaninov, the accompaniment here for the whole section is basically syncopated chords. This is yet another reason why you shouldn't stop 4 times. Slowing down during a chain of syncopations is like suddenly losing energy while...
Peggy 18.
And the third and last thing about rhythm. If you listen to different versions, you may notice that some pianists like to do what I call delayed voicing. Instead of playing notes that should be played together, they play one of them with a slight offset. Listen. Playing this delayed voicing is like adding a Carolina Reaper to the food you're cooking. If you just use a little bit and you do it with very good taste, it can be... But if you overdo it just a little bit, you'll mess everything up. If you want to learn how to do it, the best way is to learn something small like this section, learn it perfectly in tempo, and then start investigating. Your ear will tell you when something sounds good or when something is off. And finally, let's move on to phrasing. I could be talking for 1,000 days non-stop on this topic alone, but let's boil it down to the 2 most important principles that apply here. 1. The emphasis. When we talk, we usually fluctuate our intonation, but we give emphasis to 1 word per sentence, and the rest of the sentence prepares that word. This is natural human speech. And if we want our music to sound natural too, this is a very good clue where to start. Only 1 emphasis point per phrase. Look what happens when you emphasize too many notes. This is super common in intermediate pianists and beyond, especially younger ones who want to show us how beautiful every note is or every chord in every melody. It's like we lose sight of the whole idea for the 8-bar section and we make the music stagnant. So always plan your phrasing strategically. If you don't do that and you kind of let yourself go, your music will always feel disconnected and boring. And 2, the height. There's a foolproof way to plan your phrasing and find your emphasis points. Higher notes usually have a higher emotional load. So if you choose the highest note in a melody or section as your emphasis point, you just can't go wrong. In the case of this piano solo, the highest note in the melody is actually the first one. So this is where I place my point of emphasis. Listen. I could try different options, like going for the second A, or going for the last F sharp. But my favorite is still the top B flat. Notes don't have meaning like words do, but they are higher or lower within a melody, and that gives us a great clue about what they mean inside that melody. And this principle also works for the counter melody. Something tells me that the most important note is this A, which is once again the highest note of the melody. So here's where I put the emphasis for the second half. Now it's time to put into practice everything we've learned in this video. Listen to it with your full attention and try to spot every detail we've talked about. Now, if you want to continue learning some advanced piano secrets, here's a video in which I show you 3 techniques that great pianists use when they want to play fast and efficiently. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out, and see you in the next one.